In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what we did to keep the cost down on this budget property investment renovation. Ultimately, what we're going to do is keep the cost down so we can maximize the profit. And it's what we do with every one of our projects, making sure we're focusing on the things that really matter that we need to change and cutting the rest out. So if you want to know how you can make the most impact with everything that you do in a renovation, then watch the rest of this video. So what we did in the hallway was retain the existing wallpaper. Why did I do that? Well, in order to keep costs low, so what we did is we retained the existing wallpaper, so this kind of Paris featurette wallpaper, and then what we did was this was kind of like a grey wallpaper, so you might be able to see it in the B-roll of when we first went through the property. But what we did was give it a whitewash, and it's instantly brightened up the room. So I think this is going to obviously be the best option then, is to just freshen it up, give it a bit of light, and it has added quite a bit. It's only a small touch, but it isn't really worked. So we've laminated throughout the hallway as well, and we've laminated through the rest of the bottom floor of the house. We've also then added carpets upstairs. You can see the carpets going up the side, but that's ultimately what we've done. I've added a few kind of key featured bits. So what we did is like little trinkets, so the mirror, we've got other things throughout the living room as well, into the kitchen, and we've also got some stuff upstairs, little things that just add to it, so not fully staging, but just a bit of character to the property before you walk in. That helps with the surveyors, so it's just more appealing to the eye. So what we did outside was we painted outside the house. Originally, it was all coming off, it was peeling off, it was like black, but it was just all crumbling off. So what we were able to do is paint that a grey colour, so just around the doors and windows, but it's added a lot to the property and it's kind of really fitting in. The rest of the properties around here are quite nice, so it's fitting in, and now when you go in, it instantly gives that kind of fresh feel before you even walk in the property. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the rest of the property and we're going to head over to the living room. So here we are in this spacious living room, and the reason for the space is because it's open plan. So originally these were two separate rooms, and this is what we do with most of our properties. What we want to do is make sure they're open plan. A lot of these small valleys properties, ultimately they were quite small spaces, and you couldn't really do much in them. You couldn't even swing a cat, right? So what we did with all of our other properties, if they didn't already, was open plan them. Luckily for us, this one was already done, and it's one of the key things we were looking out for, because it helps keep costs down low. If something's already done, then obviously we don't have to do it. So that's kept the cost low. What we did in this room then is, first of all, what we had was a chimney stack that had been plastered over, but it was a terrible job. So we had the zigzaggy wallpaper, which was basically an optical illusion to show you how bad this thing was, and it was covering it up, right? So what we had to do is replaster this whole thing. So what we've done is gone with a white with grey accent throughout. So you can see we've gone to the lower level then, putting grey and even grey onto the radiators as well. So I believe that's it for this room. Overall, a decent sized room, and I'm looking forward to what it looks like when you get a family in here, having the TV up on the wall, all those kind of things. It's going to look really nice, and it's a really nice family space. So we're going to move on now to the kitchen. Here we are in the kitchen, one of the places you can add most value to the property, but most of this was already done. So when I was choosing the property, one of the things that really drew me to it was the fact the kitchen was in such a good standard. When I got to see it, it wasn't quite where it looked in the pictures, but it was still close enough. What we did was just create a good kitchen that was in working order. I'm going to change the worktops here. Well, there was a splashback, which was also an issue. So what we had to do is fill in behind the splashback, level it out, pretty it up a bit. But ultimately, kitchen in good working order, which I'm really happy with. There was a leak which was previously here, so the leak which was previously then causing an issue within the corner. So what we did was we actually plastered the whole of the ceiling, so we redid the whole of the ceiling, the skimmed over because it was Artex ceiling, and then we give it a whitewash throughout. One thing I didn't see originally was because there was roller blinds, I couldn't see the window behind it, and you should always check the windows, right? Meticulously check. So we've got another video coming out, which is a viewing checklist. So if you do want to watch that, just look out for the future videos. It will be there, and I will link it back in this video later on. So what we did was we had to replace the window. It was a smash window just for here, and we were able to replace that. It didn't cost too much, but obviously we got contingency within our budget, so if the things that we don't pick up or things were to happen, which there are always unforeseen circumstances, and it happened on this one as well. I'll share all that with you in a bit. Not too much to do overall though. As you can see, the sands of time are ticking away. For you to like and subscribe to this video, I know that a lot of you are watching and haven't subscribed already, but please do, it helps more than you'll ever know. And comment below, let me know if you've done a cheap house renovation. Tell me what experience you've had with the good, the bad, all of that. I'd love to know. So now it's time to show you the garden. As you can see, it's a pretty low maintenance garden, so I'm not having to worry about the tenants not cutting the grass or anything. We've got obviously slabs right the way through. A few of these slabs then we've had to concrete to make sure that they're safe, because you don't want any kids or anything tripping over. What we've done here as well is we've done the fascias, so they were a bit dilapidated. The wood was pretty rotten, it wasn't looking pretty good, so we decided to change all that out. So we had dodgy builders who essentially scammed us in a way. So you do have dodgy builders, you look at who you can trust and all those kind of things, but we were in an emergency situation. As I said, Section 78 served. We need to get it done as soon as possible. We are in the smallest of the bedrooms upstairs, and it is the box room, but we already had a feature wall in here. I'm quite happy with this already, so we were able to keep it. One of the things when you are on a budget, what you want to do is kind of maintain as much as of the property that's in a good standard as you can. You don't want to go and spend over an extra or things that can actually cost you money. So in the case of taking this wallpaper down, one of the things that could have happened is that when we started stripping the wallpaper, then the plaster starts to break away and then causes more of an issue. So then we got to go back and then we got to go and replaster or reskim over, which would have cost money again. So ultimately, we don't want to be spending up more money. So keeping what you can is ultimately the idea of making sure that you keep those costs really low. And really, I would say that this is pretty good anyway. I'm happy with this wallpaper. It's something that I'm not too offended by, and I do get offended by wallpaper. I hate it when tenants put wallpaper in, by the way, because it causes that issue if you have to go back and then you've got to go and replace the wall and skim over and everything like that. It's another cost, so I would not want any tenants to put wallpaper in, and I want to put that stipulation in there in the AST, no wallpaper. But it is good, and I'm going to keep it for that reason, just to keep the cost down, and it's not that bad either. Whitewash the whole thing, grey carpets throughout. The doors as well, so what I'm going to show you is a second angle of the doors. The doors are really good, so they're the kind of doors that we would already put into any property, chrome handles, long slatted door as well, so that's the type of thing we would put in anyway, but it's already done. So we didn't have to do anything in that regard, but this room, smallest of the rooms, but it's still a decent size. The other thing we had to do in here is to replace some of the floorboards. So when we were going in, it was giving us sea legs a bit on that one. So what we did, we replaced the floorboards. Still, at the moment, it's in a good condition, but it's something we might have to revisit at some point. I'm not quite sure. It's just a bit off, just a bit off. But it will do. It's a rental property at the end of the day. We don't want to be going and spending even more than we have to. We want to make sure that somebody's having a nice home to live in, but it's not going to be ourselves living in it. We can't spend an arm and a leg just doing up the property that's not going to really hit the end value for the extra effort. So what we do, we keep the cost low and make sure that we get the things that need to be done. So here we are in the second bedroom. This one was more than we anticipated originally. So what we had to do was board a lot of these and replaster over, because basically what happened was child was using like blue tack and all this other kind of stuff and digging out the walls essentially. I don't know what they were doing, but leave children in a room and they'll start digging out the walls. I just don't know if there's any locks on the doors. Maybe that was it. She's just scratching her way out. But that's what happened. We came in, we had to redo all of this, plaster the rest of the stuff, and it is what it is. It wasn't expected, but it's looking a lot better for it. A lot of the walls needed the attention, so what we did was we obviously plastered throughout. That's pretty much it. Not too much to phone home about in this. Oh, I did have to replace the window handles. So when we had the property, we thought that all of that was sorted, but make sure you check that the keys and all of the windows open, because that's another thing you can get a bit stung on if you don't have the access to them in terms of the keys, or if they're stuck. Make sure you check them. One of those bonus things that you need to think about when you're looking at properties. Little thing, but it's another thing that it's a potch. Little things become a potch and it becomes a headache. So just think about that when you're going around. Check the windows, check any kind of little crevices or whatever that you need to get into, which might cause a bit of an issue. Because if you can't get access to things, yeah, it's going to be reaching in your pocket and painful. So if you don't know, The roof, we had so many problems. So one of the things when we first bought the property, what we did was we purchased, and within a couple of weeks, a storm came through. So part of the dry verge came off, along with a few tiles, hitting a car. Now that's the thing that's going to cost you money, right? The other thing then was that we then got the person who hit the car, we had to do the insurance claim. So luckily, everything was sorted by the insurance and we were able to make that back the money through the claim. If it wasn't that case, then obviously it would have been an additional cost. But one of the things that has kind of increased our budget then for our budget house renovation is that we now need to go and get a new roof. Well, the problem is that we did check the roof originally and we got to see all the things. We were making sure that we got a roofer to check it out, everything. But turns out it was still an issue. So one of the things that you might want to do is get a structural survey on things, just for the safety aspect of things. But for us, we needed to purchase the property cash quick, and we didn't have time for the survey, so we decided to go and pursue and get a new roof. With the numbers that we got it for and the below market value level that we got it for, having the roof in there and paying for it is not as much of an issue for us. And I'm quite happy to pay the money, and we have really good builders, so we're able to get it a bit cheaper. So ultimately, it is what it is. We're having to replace the roof, and it was better than the other options that we were going to go for, so we're just patching it up and patching it up and patching it up. You may as well just go through this, otherwise you end up paying more patching it up or close to the level that you would have had to do to replace it. And we have a new roof and we got a guarantee then for extended period of years. So at least you've got the safety and security knowing that the problem is resolved and it's in somebody's hands then if it's guaranteed. What we did notice though was on this side of the roof there's flash band, so essentially it's formed like lead, so that stops the water coming in. Well, that is not in the best condition, and then we went into the roof and a lot of the it's the old kind of felt. So basically we went up there a couple of weeks ago and we were able to literally put our finger through the felt, so pretty bad. But it is what it is. It's one of those things you have to factor in. This is why I say to people, have the money in the bank enough for double refurbs, especially the light refurbs anyway, because when you're trying to patch things up and not do a full gut, then more things can go wrong. But always have at least 1.5 times even with the bigger stuff, just because you need that security. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's why people don't tell you the honesty about property. Oh, I did this. But you can basically guarantee over the period that you own the property, something will go wrong. And that's why you're kind of paying the money in and getting the rental, is to hold some of that money back, not to just spend it and splurge and live for the rest of your life spending all that rental income. It's in order to increase the asset price and hold on long enough so that asset to increase, and then benefit a bit from the cash flow, but not as much as you think, because that money's got to go plowing back into the property, because that's what's going to help you then retain the property for the long term. So here we are in the master bedroom, the largest bedroom in the property, and it's a decent size. I mean, really decent. I don't know if you can see the scope of it really on the lenses, but what we'll show you is a bit of B-roll so you can see. But this is the largest bedroom, quite a decent size, and one of the things that we had to do here is make sure the walls were okay. So there was a bit of attention needed to the walls, so we had to skim over, but it's looking that much better for it. The thing that I was worried about is when the part of the roof came off, this would have been the main bedroom affected because it would have happened like right over there. But we haven't seen any kind of issues come through, so no leakages or anything like that. That's a positive, obviously, and it's not really affecting the rooms. It would have been the first sign we would have seen it. So this is not affected. It's been all good in this room. Not too much to do. White walls, grey carpets, and everything in between that we've been doing before. But I'm happy with this. I really am. I'm going to show you my favourite of all room, the bathroom, right next. So here we are in my most favourite room in the property, the bathroom. And I'll tell you why. All of the room is floor to ceiling tiled. Now, if you were to pay for that, that's a premium feature that you would have to go for, is floor to ceiling tile. It would cost you a hell of a lot of money. Not only that, this room is pretty big, so it costs you even more. All of that was already done. I didn't have to go out and spend extra. This is why I love this, and this is one of the things that drew me to the property, is the kitchen and the bathroom. Both of those were in really good standard. The thing that caught my eye was the fact that the property was undervalued. I was like, that's cheap, right? For the area, knowing how much the area prices are. So I instantly had to book a viewing, and well, I didn't even do that. I put an offer in before even seeing the property when I did this, and it was subject to satisfactory viewing. All of that was already good, and I got the offer in straight away, and that's how we were able to get this deal. this is the thing with this, is that it's really good, the price just discrepancy. It just didn't make sense why it was so low. Ultimately, I found out that the person was going through financial difficulties, and we were able to then obviously help them because they went with us because we were doing a cash purchase and we were able to complete quickly. Too quick in my opinion, because if we waited a couple of weeks, we wouldn't have to pay for the roof issue when we had to get involved with insurance. But hey ho, it's things happen. It's one thing, solicitor was too good this time. Should have had the other solicitors that I moan about every single time. But they were too good in this regard, and they got the property through quickly. I'm not complaining on other stuff I want to get through quickly, and they were able to. So this is why I love this property, is because there's not that much to do. And this is why we can keep things on a budget. So if you want to keep things on a budget, it's all about buying right in the first place so you don't have too much work to do. So what makes this property a budget renovation is the numbers. We paid £4,500 to get it up to where it is today. But what we weren't expecting was a roof issue. So that was 2 weeks into the property when we purchased it, and we didn't even start renovating at that point. So even with that, obviously we had to pay an excess for the insurance, but now we're having to pay for a roof. So we don't know quite where we are in terms of the roof prices, but I'm guessing it's going to be in the region of £3,500–4,000. So ultimately that's going to be overall, so that's near enough £8,500 all in all. So when I did my original numbers when you watched the first video, didn't quite match up. But there you go, the renovation has nearly doubled. So this is why I say on a small renovation, you don't quite know where you're going to be. That's why having the money, but because we bought such below market value. Now this property is revalued at £115,000. We bought for £75,000. So you can see the spread. There's still money to be made there. So ultimately, I'm not too worried about it, and it's going to protect us for the future. So obviously, property is a long-term investment, and you do make money when you buy, and buying right is good. But buying right is so important because it saves you from things like this happening. So when you do have to pay extra out, it still isn't going to hurt you as much. So ultimately, you need to understand those numbers. You need to then obviously buffer for any eventualities that could happen then, and maybe the roof blowing off for your own project. Please like, comment and subscribe, and let us know if you enjoyed these kind of videos. I think behind the scenes videos help more because you can see the realities of property, and you can see like the roof blowing off and things like that. That is the reality of property, but you've got to look over the long term, and it kind of really drills in the fact you need to look over the long term. If this is going to property that's going to increase in value over the next 10, 20 years, that's where you want to be looking. The cash flow is just for that kind of incremental increase to give you the money to be able to reinvest in the property to get it up to standard. You may be able to pocket some of it, but the ultimate goal is to increase that value, and that's where most of the money is made, is in capital growth. So showing you stuff like this is just not to scare you away, it's but to tell you the realities, because most of these people don't tell you the things that go wrong. And I can tell you something has gone wrong on every single project. You just need to have your backups, you need to have your options, and you need to understand, if there's something going to go wrong, how much it could potentially cost you. That's what you need to look at. But it does go wrong, things happen, and this is property, so keep watching the channel. But I want to know, how much is your cheapest property renovation? What is the budget, your low budget renovation that you've done successfully? Let me know in the comments. Did it go to plan? Was it the thing that you were expecting when you went in for it? That's what I want to know. Let me know in the comments.